What I would like to do now is talk a little bit about opening and storing templates. And this is where we'll refer to that table that I've done and emailed you. There are lots of options here, and they're all subtly different. If you used it a lot, then you would probably use them all at the right time and the right place and remember exactly what you're doing and not get caught out. If you don't use Templot that often and you try to use the right one to be efficient and slick, chances are that you'll misremember and lose a template that you've just spent half an hour working on. Opening a template, first of all, we're all happy with the concept of the control template being the only template on the trackpad that you can actually manipulate and operate, and which all of these controls up here refer to. It seems to default to a curved turnout. What I usually do when I'm bringing up a new template is to go into the quick button, the new button here, and I usually bring up a straight plane track and then work from there. I'm a bit of a creature of habit, and I find I get on best if I select one of the options and stick to that and have a regular way of doing things. So if I do that, we'll lose that control template that's there because you can only ever have one control template, and I haven't stored it. So there's one control template, a bit of plane track. And I'm going to store that now so I don't lose it. And the quick tab way of storing it is this double arrow here. Okay, it gives you advice about it. These little panels come up quite often, but they can be very useful, very helpful. Now, once you've stored it, it goes into the storage box. You can think of it as a chest where it keeps all of the templates that you have stored. And if we go into the storage box and show the box list, we now have one template in there, plane track, which is this one. Every piece has a name as well, P001 here. You can rename that whatever you like. It could be GWR main 1, say. I don't usually bother with the names because they tend to get rather big and clutter the place up a bit. But that is now safely stored in there. When you store a control template, it also keeps it as the current control template. If I want to use that again as the control template, I can, because there are actually two templates there. It's not just the nature of the track and its length and its curvature and gauge and the rest of it. Its location on the trackpad is also saved. So the control template is exactly superimposed on top of the background template there. And I can show you that if I now operate the control template with a shift and join, just as a bit of an experiment. And it uncloaks the template behind it. I'm going to now bring up another new one, and you see it defaults to what I pulled up last time, straight plane track. You have a limited selection of options for what the first control template is pulled up here. You've got either plane track or turnouts from an A4.5 to a D12 in the common denominators, and you can have it straight to an increasing number of radius up to a scale 20 chains. But as I say, I stick to a plain straight track and then work from there. So that's a new control template. That curved template, which continued on from the first one here, has gone, been superseded by this one. And we'll make this a bit different so we can identify it. And we'll make that a turnout. And I'm just going to save that and then show another way of saving. If you come into Program, this is the long-winded way to store and background. I'm not going to show that box again. And now if we go into the storage box, we have two templates stored in the background, the plane track and the turnout. And again, the turnout has not only been stored in the background in the storage box, but it remains as the control template. just like the other one did. I'm going to bring up another new one so that we have 3. Again, plain track. So we lose that other control template because you can only have one control template. I'm just going to bring that away from the other one. And so we can identify that. I'm going to change that into a half diamond. And I'm going to save that too into the background. And now we've got 3 in the background, and we can identify them all there. Now you'll see there are other options in here. This is to do with the control template here. There's your heading control template. You have other options besides store and background. If you store and background, the last control template that you have stored goes to the bottom of the list. If the control template is one that you have brought back from the storage box and had a position higher up in the list, and you wanted it to go back to its original place, maybe to make it easier to follow a track along its sequence of templates, then you would use restore and background. If you use restore and background, it still is stored as a background in the storage box, but it's not in last place. It goes back to the place it came from.
So if you're doing something fairly complicated and you want to modify, say, the length of a point or something, would you restore it just so that the whole lot is less cluttered than otherwise?
I think there are 2 things there. One is the order, John, and I think restore, yes, would put it back in its proper order in the sequence of tracks so that you have a better chance of finding it again. But there's also the issue that it is very easy, I find anyway, to accrue large numbers of templates that you are not going to use again. So that it's difficult to know which ones are actually the real ones, unless you take the trouble to name each one or to hide the ones that you don't want. And I'll come on to that a bit and again. So there's the 2 facets of that, but we will look at that again. Okay. Now, the storage box has 2 components in a way. You can think of it as having the main body of the vault, of the chest, as being these background templates here that in the normal colors show as blue, and you can see. You can't manipulate them because they're background templates, they're not control templates, but you can see them. So these are the ones actually which are gradually going to build up to give you your track plan, and then you will be working on your control template, which is the next bit you're going to be adding on to it. But there is another way that you can store things in the storage box, and that is this option here, store as unused. Now, I'm going to do it again. I'm not going to use the control template that is continuing on from the half diamond. I'm going to bring up a new one again so that we're always repeating the same process. I'm just going to bring it out of the way. Now, if I come into the program here and I store as unused, there it is, number 4, plain track. But it's got a little blue number, not a red one, and it's not got the red arrowhead. And that means it's unused. Templot calls it unused. What it means is that it's stored, all the information is in there, and you can recover it. You haven't lost it from the storage box, but it is hidden. It no longer appears on the trackpad. What we're looking at here is the continuation of it as a control template, because it still continues as the control template until you make another control template. But remember, with these other ones, when I shifted the control template that was sitting on top of the background template we just stored, If I do that now with this one, which has been stored as unused, there's no background template showing underneath it. That can be useful if you're trying to work out exactly what to do with a template and you don't want to lose the work you've done on it so far, but you want to be able to see it nice and clearly. You don't want it cluttered up and overlapping a template that's underneath it. If you want to recover the original one, sorry, come into the box. If you highlight it in the box, we have an option here, look, copy to background. Background strictly are the templates in the storage box that are defined as background and therefore visible on the trackpad. Okay? The main thing I think is not to despair because you haven't lost it if you hit that by mistake. The other thing you can do is store as a library template. So if you've made a B7, say, and your layout is full of B7s, we can store that as a library template. What I'm going to do here, I'm going to just delete that just so we've got a bit of space to play with. I'm going to bring up a new template here, move it out of the way. Let's say make it a turnout. What turnout is it? It's a B6. Okay, B6 will do for our purposes here. That is just a control template. There's nothing else underneath it. If I, store as a library template, you see it's gone a bit green now. And if we bring up the list, I'm just going to bring the highlight away from that. You can see instead of the red arrow, it's got a green dot and it's got a green number. And that defines it as a library template. Functionally, it's like the store as unused. So you've not lost it. It's in the storage box in all its glory, but you can't see it on the template. But it's now defined as a library template. And if you want to bring up all your library templates to choose one that you use commonly again, then it's there. So those are the main options for storing a control template. They're all subtly different. Unless you're doing a lot of it, I would suggest that you stick to store and background. And the other key thing, of course, is that if in some way you do not store a control template, you will lose it as soon as you make another one. And it's very easy if you're working through a complex bit of point work or something, or getting the radius just right, and you've done that and you think, wow, that's great, I can go on and do the next one. And without thinking, you bring up a new template, poof, the one you've just spent all that time on has disappeared. The maxim is store it or lose it. And for me, this one is simple and reliable, and you know what you're doing and you're not confusing it with whether you can see it or whether you can't. And it means that if you stick to that, every background template you've got, you can see. Okay, so I hope that helps clarify some of those. The other way you can bring up a control template is by highlighting a background template and doing something with that. It doesn't matter whether you right or left click it. That will bring up this menu down the left hand side, and you'll see a number of functions here that are in the top part of my table. And in the same way, they will nearly all bring up this background template as a control template. But what happens to it in the storage box varies with the instruction. So we have here a control template. We'll just prove there's nothing under that. That's just purely a control template. Let's say we want to make this point the control template. If I highlight it, we haven't yet lost that control template, but it's getting vulnerable. If we use the make control option, then that is actually a safe option. That will make this template, which is what we've highlighted and to which this menu refers, it will make this the control template, but it will also store into the background the existing control template, this one, so we don't lose that either. So if we make the control, you see that's now a background template and we haven't lost it. This is now the control, but it's no longer a stored in the background one. So although we can now manipulate this, we don't have a reserved copy in the storage box. So if we don't store this at the end of it, that one goes. If we delete to the control, so let's say we want to play with the half diamond and delete to the control, you might predict actually what that's going to do. It's going to delete it from the storage box, gone forever from the storage box, but it becomes the control. And you will see that we will lose the other control. That's a warning that it's going to delete it. So that's become the control. It hasn't saved the existing control template. And it ain't in the storage box anymore either. So again, when we finished playing with this one, we're going to lose it if we don't store it. So I'm just going to store that again and put it into the background so we can see it. It's still the control template. So we talked about delete to the control, make to the control. Wipe to the control is another variation on the theme. You're probably beginning to get the idea of what sort of things are happening here. If we wipe this to the control, then it becomes the control. But it remains in the storage box, but it's wiped from the background. So it's hidden, it's unused. We can bring it back by copying to the background. And there it is. Not as a control by doing that, it's just come back to the background. So we'll just bring that out of the way. So the other one that's useful, really, I find useful, is copy to the control. I'm going to bring up a new one here. Bring it out of the way. Now, if we copy a background template to the control, this can be quite useful. It's a bit like wipe to the control, except that it remains visible on the trackpad. So again, if you think what you've got is okay, but you're just trying to see if you can get that particular template a bit better aligned, you want to try a different curvature or something like that, then if you copy it to the control, you don't lose the one underneath and you can see it, so you know you haven't lost it. Okay, so those are the main things. And as I said, store or lose it is the maxim. Now, as you build up a layout plan, you will find that all the templates accrue in the storage box, and you can end up with hundreds of them if you're building King's Cross. And at some stage, you want to save those to make sure that you don't accidentally lose them. All being well, without any problems with your computer or power supply or hitting the wrong button, the templates that are in the storage box will stay there until you positively empty the storage box or clear all the files. Sometimes if you end up going down a blind alley and you work out a series of templates and they're just not going where you want and you want to start again, clear all, they've gone and you'll not get them back. The way to save everything in the storage box is to come into Files and Save All Templates. And that takes you straight into the box files folder under Templot Dev on your C disk. It will default to whatever name it chooses. For me, it always seems to default to Midland Central. So I'll rename it as Templot Tute 2. Now, the other useful thing that Templot does is every time you save a group of files in the storage box into the box files, it will, as part of the file name, include the full date and time. Year, February, 3rd of February, 3 minutes past 9, 12 seconds past 3 minutes past 9. So even if you are saving very rapidly, you make one change that you then want to save, you can identify that as the latest file without a problem. I've already got a folder here, Nmag Templot Tutorial. We can put that in there and we can save that. And this is where it asks you if you want the mecbox files. So I always say no thanks, because I don't use them. Now, there are a lot of options here, as you can see from the table. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 options for making a background template, the control template. And they all do different things to that template and to the existing control template. And it's very easy to get mixed up with it, especially if you're only coming into Templot every now and again. So what I do, and what my advice would be to anyone else, is choose one of these options and use it habitually, and then you know what you're doing. Some people like the make control because that ensures that you don't lose the current control template, and there's a lot to be said from that. If you are building up a large layout with lots and lots of templates, lots of trial and error, if you're anything like me, I'm a very messy worker. I'll start a template, I'll get so far along it, it's not going where I want it to go. So I'll abort that one and I'll open a new one and I'll try again. If you work in that sort of way and you use the make control, that half done aborted control template will be saved as a background template. And before you know it, you are cluttered up with a load of templates that you've moved on from, you're never going to need, and you are actually confounding finding your way both around the trackpad and the storage box. So what I do is I take a bit of a risk, and occasionally I miss it, but I always use delete to the control when I'm bringing a background template to the control template. It simplifies things. But it does mean that before I do that, if I want to save the control template, I have to store it as a separate action. So my habit, if I've worked on a control template and I know I need it, I positively store it. It's only one click and it goes in the background. And then if I want to start reactivating an old background template, I will delete to the control. I know that I only ever have one copy of one template in one place between the trackpad and the storage box. And if it's the control template, I know I don't have it in the storage box. And if I want to keep it, I've got to positively save it. But it does mean that it reduces the clutter hugely for the way I work. I know I've repeatedly said, save it or lose it. And that is because I think that's the best mentality to approach this with, and gives you the least chance of losing templates that you don't want to lose. However, there are commands in Templot which allow you to recover the most recently deleted template from the storage box and the most recently lost control template if you do that immediately. Now, just as a demonstration of this, I've pulled up a screen here with 3 background templates: plain track, point, half diamond, and 1 control template, which I've made a transition curve, and they're all different so we can identify them. And just to prove there isn't a background template underneath this control template, we can shift and join it and show there's nothing hidden underneath. Alternatively, we could come into the box list and see that there are 3 templates saved here: plain track, half diamond, and turnout. Now, let's say that I have taken some time to prepare this transitional curve template here, and without thinking, then go to this background template and click on it and delete it to the control, forgetting to save the transitional curve template. If we go into storage box, we now just have 2 templates saved: the plain track straight, that's this one, and the half diamond, which is this one. This is the control template, and you'll notice the control template disappears whenever you open the storage box, but comes back when you close it again. So how do we recover this lost control template from here? Now, if you go into the Do menu, the first option under here is Undo, and this Undo command only applies to the control template. Now, the most recent operation we have performed on this control template is effectively to delete it, and we did that when we opened this one as the control template. So if we open the Do and Undo changes, that will reverse the last instruction to the control template, which was get rid of the old one, and there it comes back again. So we don't want to lose that, so we'll store that one and send it to the background as well. Now, along the way there, we've lost a background template in effect because we converted it to the control template. But then when we restored this control template, that lost this one because you can only have 1 control template. But that template there had been a background template. And so we have 1 option to recover that. And we can do that through one of 2 routes: either the storage box, edit, and here is an undo delete, which will undelete the most recently deleted background template. And there it comes. And we now have all 4 templates now stored, because when we recovered this control template, we then went on and stored it, if you remember. Now, this is one of the rare occasions where there is no active control template. Look, they're all background templates. They're all blue. If any one of those was a control template, it would be highlighted and sit on top of its background template. So there you have it. If you have realized that you have just lost a control template by opening another before you stored the first one, you go into Do and Undo, but it has to be quickly after you've lost it. If you have lost a template from the storage box, then you have the option of going to the storage box, edit, undo, delete, and this again only applies to a template from the storage box, logically enough, because you're in the storage box menus. Or you can reach that same route through Program, and undo deleted template has the same effect, again only on a storage box template. Best though to believe store it or lose it. That's as much as I wanted to say about opening and storing templates. And I've gone over it in a lot of detail because it is something that is a common area of confusion and forgetfulness. So I hope that has been helpful. Let me just stop share.
I've got a question, Laurie.
Of course, yeah. But if you've got a question along the way, please say. It does break up the monotony of my voice.
When you discover you have made an error, but fortunately you did save it into the storage box, it's quite difficult to work out what's what in there, isn't it? There's a whole list of names and things, and you can, I think you can look at the pictures of them, can't you?
Yeah.
You can see the drawing. But I don't think you can run through that list as drawings.
You can. Can you just go back to a screen share again a minute?
Yeah, there's a button near the top where it says show box list, or when it says
there.
You can see the box list, which is just names. And if they're all about the same thing, like turnout,
okay,
you've got to know which is which.
What I'm going to do, I'm going to bring these back to the background. When you hit on a name in the storage box list, it highlights the template on the trackpad, so you can tell which one it is.
If it's there, yeah.
If it's there. It won't if it's a library. I think you have to bring that back. I think you can only access a library template by bringing it back to the control template. And you've got options down in the bottom of the storage box here to save you having to go back into the top menus as well. You've got the three main ones of copy, wipe, or delete to the control template. So the library one, so you could copy to the control, and there you have it down at the bottom there.
If you delete one of those that you've just put in, one of those sections, not delete it from the box, but delete it from the pad.
Yeah.
Then does it automatically disappear from the storage box?
Unless you're telling it to become unused or a library.
So if you that one that you're just about to click on, if you make
here,
that, if you make that control and then say delete, is it still in the library? So that's DL008 at the moment.
I've not found a way of doing a simple delete on a control template. The easiest way to delete a control template is to bring up another one and put it somewhere out of the way.
The control template's like the bit of stuff you're working on before you add it to the whatever it is. So you can choose to not show the control template, but you don't not have a control template if you've got something that you're working on.
There is always a control template. Even when you first open the trackpad, it delivers you a default template, which is the control template.
It has to, hasn't it?
Yeah.
It's got to be one.
There is always a control template.
You can choose to not show it, but you can't not have one.
Up onto this menu here, which is trackpad. The nearest thing I can think of is it's the view option in Windows. You've got options here where you can show or hide the information panels, but you can show or hide the control template.
Yeah, okay.
But there will always be one there.
Okay.
Is that the question you were asking? Oh,
kind of, yes. And I think the answer is actually probably, well, if something's disappeared and it's not in the box, then obviously I didn't save it and it's my fault.
I think in Martin's head, in Templot, there are some words that have very specific meanings. Make is one of them, and delete and wipe are different things. So I think what you're asking is, if you're in the box and you hit delete, what happens? And the answer is, it will delete that. Like this, the storage box, I think of it as like, this is my box of track pieces that I'm building my layout from. And if I hit delete, that is like putting one of those track pieces in the bin. And the bin man takes it straight away. It's gone forever. I can't get it back unless I saved it. Whereas if I wipe it, what happens is it's not shown on my layout anymore, but it is still in my box of pieces. That orange button in the bottom there, that removes it from the background. And if you click it again, copy to background, it shows it on the background. But if you hit delete, it's gone, not from the background, from the whole of the project.
And you can delete it in two ways. You can delete it by highlighting it in the list and hitting the delete tab here, or you can click on it there and you've got a delete option there.
Yeah.
And then the only difference is if you delete it to the control is it will delete it, but it'll become the current control template. So you still have it as the control template, so you could store it again, but it's really volatile now.
So it's kind of like the one that's the control is the one that's in my hand. Everything that's on the background are the bits that I've arranged on the baseboard.
Yeah.
And if I wipe them off the baseboard, they're going back into the gloat box, and I can get them out and put them on the baseboard again later.
That's a great way to think about it.
Yeah.
Right.
I think.
I've been assuming that wipe is something that means you slide it to or whatever.
The confusing bit is that the storage box has two components, the visible and the archived. And then there's the ultimate safety place, which is the C disk.
Do you use library templates? Is that something that's in your usual workflow, Laurie?
No, not at all. I always build a template if I want it. It's, like I say, I'm a creature of habit. I'm not the most slick, efficient way of working. If I wanted a B7, it's not very many clicks, for instance, to create new plane track, and it always comes up as plane track because that's what I've used last time. Click turnout, click real switch B and real V crossing, and you've got it there. You know, it's 10 seconds once you're in the flow.
Yes, if you were going to use the association point kits, either with the templates or the easy track ones or the peg turnout ones, it would make sense to have a library of those.
Yeah.
And then you could even make that available on the association website. Say, if you want to make Templot behave a bit more like the presets that you know will match the ones that you buy from the shop.
Yeah.
That's a good shout, Nick, because although Templot's not designed, and mine makes no bones about it, is that it's not designed for clicking pre-made bits of track together. That's not a bad shout to give people a leg up and say these are the templates for Templot that you get if you buy these bits from the association as a kind of leg up. I don't know what they actually correspond to personally, but someone must.
They should be pretty prototypical, I think, aren't they? Isn't it an A6, a B7, a B8?
But as you showed, there's so many options within that.
I only hedged my bets because I was aware that the paper templates that we used to sell didn't quite conform to something that was prototypical.
Yeah.
There's a lot of discussion about it going back historically.
John, are you happy with the area of files opening and storing templates?
Yes, thank you. Yeah. Just remind me again, Laurie, which, you said you used two commands effectively for dealing with it all. Yeah.
My habitual ones are when I finish the control, store and background, which is either the double arrow there is the quick single.
Yeah. Yes.
Or program, store and background.
Okay.
They both do the same thing.
Right.
With all of these shortcut keys, somewhere there is the definitive longer route option through these top menu option.
Okay.
And to open a background template, I virtually always do delete to the control. Almost the only time I would use anything else would be a copy to the control. And that would be where I'm manually building up a complex bit of track like a tandem. And I want to use different bits of the same template to fill in the gaps, say, for the middle crossing.
I see.
Because you can dissect and cannibalize any single bit of a template to use as an individual rail, part of a rail, which can be very useful if you're trying to get a nice, neat, very complicated bit, like an external slip or something like that. You have to do that piecemeal, and that can have 5, 10 templates, which will only be an inch of a single rail, for instance.
So when you're making up something like that, the program won't automatically cut the rails where you want them and so on.
Well, that's part 2 for tonight.
Okay.
It's got some macro functions that will do most of what you want. But if you're building 10 mil loco depot, then you have to go freehand and do it yourself, basically. Yeah. There isn't an off the shelf for it.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Thank you.
Earlier in this session, I referred to a table which I drew up to compare the effects of different commands which could be used to store a control template in the storage box and to reopen a template from the storage box as the control template. I don't propose to run through this table line by line, block by block, but maybe some navigation of it might be helpful. If you do find this helpful, then please feel free to take a screenshot of it, and I will display a pure PDF at the end of this video in the hope that that will give you a clearer picture of it. There are really 2 tables on here. The upper table compares all the menu commands which will apply to templates held within the storage box. The lower section here deals with commands which will store a control template into the storage box. When opening a template in the storage box to the control on the trackpad, there are 2 templates we need to consider. One is the fate of the template in the storage box, which we are actually operating, and that is shown in these boxes here. And the other template to consider is the existing control template on the trackpad, which is also often affected by these commands, and that's shown in these boxes here. When storing a control template into the storage box, only the control template is affected in similar boxes here. So these boxes which would refer to existing templates in the storage box are not applicable. In the left-hand column are the objectives of the commands we're undertaking. In the second column are the specific menu options which can be applied. And then we have the 3 locations where a template may end up. 2 sets of these, one for the storage box template being acted upon, and one for the current control template. These 3 locations are the same for each of those templates. A template may exist as the control template on the trackpad in this right-hand column here. It may continue as a background template visibly on the trackpad stored within the storage box in this column, or it may be stored unused and invisible in this column. And each column simply displays a yes/no logic as to whether the template is there or not. 3 similar columns for the storage box templates that may be converted to a control template on the trackpad, or continue as a background visible template in the storage box, or as an invisible unused template in the storage box. The sets of controls which can affect these, if we deal with opening a storage box template first, the top 2 rows deal with operations on a background, i.e. visible template. The next 2 rows deal with commands which operate on an unused invisible template, and then a couple of controls which can operate on all storage box templates. I've tried to make the effects of these commands a little clearer with a traffic lights type of system, so that where a template becomes or persists as a control template on the trackpad, the box is shown in green. Where it does not exist or persist in that location, it's shown as red. Where a template is lost from all three locations, it's shown as dark red. In other words, it's completely deleted. And it's dark red because these, if you like, are the danger controls where there is a real risk of losing a template completely. In the storage box, where a template persists as a background visible template, I've illustrated that with a blue box, and where it may persist as an invisible unused template, the box is light amber. Other features illustrated on this table are where the specific menu commands may be found. And there are three places here really. One is by clicking on a template on the trackpad. That would obviously be a background visible template, or in the storage box list, which could be either a background or an unused template, or by bringing up the program menu. And you'll see there's a superscript for each of those, 1, 2, and 3. And those superscripts are reflected by each control showing where they can be found. Some of them can be found in more than one location. For instance, delete to the control, superscript 1 and 2, can be found by both clicking on the template on the trackpad and also in the storage box tabs and menus. The single red star indicates those commands which risk losing the control template altogether unless it is stored before the background or unused template is actioned. Finally, I've illustrated my preferred options by large, bold, italic fonts. So when opening a template from the storage box, I prefer to delete to the control, which of course risks completely deleting the pre-existing control template. And so alongside that, my other favored command is store and background for the control template to make sure I don't lose it. I hope you find this table helpful, and if you do, I'll now switch to a static PDF, which I hope will give you a sharper screen image if you wish to take one. I'll leave that on for about 30 seconds.